There is an electric vehicle sitting in driveways all across America right now, one that Consumer Reports readers have ranked among the most satisfying cars they have ever owned. And yet, in those same surveys, one of the most complained about vehicles when it comes to build quality and software behavior. It is a car that has single-handedly reshaped what Americans expect from an EV, that has pushed legacy automakers into a decade-long panic, and that has convinced millions of people that going electric is not just smarter, it is inevitable. But here is what nobody tells you before you hand over $45,000 or more. Some of the biggest advantages that drew you in are also the exact reasons a growing number of owners are walking away at trade-in time, feeling like they missed something important. The range you were promised on paper does not always survive a January morning in Ohio. The charging network you were sold on has become dramatically more crowded than it was 2 years ago. And the depreciation curve on this vehicle is something that financial advisors would make you sign a waiver before discussing. You might be getting the best electric SUV on the market right now. Or you might be paying a premium for a brand story that is quietly aging faster than the technology inside it. And there is one factor, one specific variable that almost nobody factors into their buying decision, that changes the entire math of owning this vehicle, depending on where you live and how you drive. You are going to want to stay until we get there, because it genuinely reshapes the conversation. This is not a review. Slick acceleration shots in empty parking garages, glossy comparisons of EPA range estimates you will never actually achieve, and 5-star recommendations from channels that get cars for free and never pay an insurance bill. What this is a battle, a genuine conflict between the very real, documented reasons why this vehicle is a legitimate best buy in the EV space right now, and the equally real, equally documented reasons why buying it could be one of the more expensive mistakes of the next 6 years of your life. The stakes here are not small. We are talking about a purchase decision that will affect your finances, your daily routine, and your long-term satisfaction in ways that a weekend test drive simply cannot reveal. And here's the thing about how we are going to do this. Every reason to buy is going to be challenged, directly or indirectly, by a reason to run. Because for every advantage this vehicle has, there is a shadow just behind it, and some of those shadows are growing longer. One of the reasons to avoid this vehicle directly contradicts what is arguably its most celebrated selling point. It is the kind of contradiction that makes you stop mid-sentence when you see it clearly for the first time. That moment is coming. But first, you need to understand the world that this car actually lives in. Not the world of the brochure, and not the world of the enthusiast forum. The world of actual American ownership in 2025. Here is the real landscape of EV ownership in the United States right now, and it matters because this vehicle was designed around a very specific set of assumptions. Assumptions that are true for some buyers and catastrophically wrong for others. The most important assumption is that you charge at home. If you have a garage, if your HOA allows it, if your landlord cooperates, and if you have a 240-volt outlet installed, or are willing to spend somewhere between $400 and $1,200 to add one, then home charging is genuinely transformative. You wake up every single morning to a full battery. No gas stations, no weekly pump ritual, no price anxiety. For suburban homeowners with predictable commutes, this experience is, and let us be precise here, legitimately life-changing. The cost per mile using home electricity, depending on your state's utility rates, typically runs between 2 and 4 cents per mile, versus an average of 9 to 12 cents per mile for a comparable gasoline vehicle. That delta is real money over time. But the United States is not a nation of uniform electricity rates, uniform climates, or uniform living arrangements. In California, PG&E's peak rates can push the cost of charging uncomfortably close to gasoline parity. In Arizona in August, battery thermal management systems work overtime, and efficiency drops in ways the EPA cycle never captures. And in apartments, condos, or rental properties, home charging is not an option at all for a meaningful segment of the population. And for those buyers, this vehicle's ownership experience transforms into something very different from what the marketing suggests. This vehicle is excellent in the right circumstances. The question you need to answer before the test drive, not after, is whether your circumstances are the right ones. Because this car does something really well in the areas it was designed for. It is the kind of car that makes you stop mid-sentence when you see it clearly for the first time. The question you need to answer before the test drive, not after, is whether your circumstances are the right ones. Because this car does something really well in the areas it was designed for. It is the kind of car that makes you stop mid-sentence when you see it clearly for the first time. and it falls short in ways that are genuinely frustrating when you land outside that design envelope. And you are about to find out exactly where both of those edges are. What you're about to see is a structure. For every compelling reason to put your money down on this SUV, there is a corresponding reason to pump the brakes. These reasons are not cherry-picked to manufacture drama. They come from J.D. Power's EV Experience Study, from Consumer Reports reliability data, from EPA range testing methodologies, from real owner forums where people who have lived with this vehicle for 2, 3, and 4 years share the unfiltered version of their experience. The goal is not to tell you what to do. The goal is to give you the mental framework that the dealer's finance office absolutely does not want you to have when you walk in. Some people, after going through all of this, will conclude that this is still the right EV for them, and they will be correct. Others will realize that their driving patterns, their geography, or their financial situation puts them squarely in run territory. And a few of you, pay attention here, will realize that a different electric vehicle, one that several of you might already be considering, actually solves the specific problems that make this one risky for your use case. That comparison is implicit throughout everything that follows, and by the end, you will have a clearer picture not just of this car's trade-offs, but of the broader EV landscape and where the competition has genuinely caught up or pulled ahead. Take a side. You are about to have enough information to pick one. The first thing you feel when you step into this vehicle and press the accelerator is that the physics of combustion are a lie you have been living with your entire life. Buy number 5, instant torque in performance, 0 to 60 in around 4.5 seconds in the long-range all-wheel drive version. And we are not talking about a sports car. We are talking about a 5-seat family SUV that weighs nearly 5,000 pounds. The instant torque delivery of an electric motor is something that photographs, spec sheets, and even video cannot fully communicate. When you need to merge onto a California freeway at rush hour, when you need to execute a quick lane change to avoid an unpredictable driver, when you just want to feel the confidence of knowing that the machine beneath you will respond the moment you ask, this vehicle delivers that in a way that every combustion engine crossover in its price range simply cannot match. This is not a quirk or a marketing angle. It is a fundamental physical difference between electric and internal combustion drivetrains, and this car exploits it more effectively than almost anything else on the road at this price point. Edmunds testing has repeatedly confirmed acceleration figures that put this vehicle in performance territory that would have cost significantly more just 5 years ago. And the delivery of that power is not just fast. It is smooth, linear, and deeply confidence-inspiring. For drivers who have spent decades in conventional vehicles, the first few weeks behind the wheel of this car feel like an upgrade that was long overdue. The emotional attachment that this creates is real, and it is powerful. But here's the thing about the emotional attachments. They can make you overlook things that matter, and what comes next might be the first crack in the foundation. Something that owners talk about in hushed tones in the forums, because they feel a little foolish for caring about it as much as they do. Let's talk about what happens on the other side of that exhilarating acceleration. Run number 5, build quality and interior finish. You close the door, you sit in the seat, and if you're coming from a German competitor or a premium Japanese brand, or frankly even some American vehicles in the same price range, the first quiet moment inside this car brings a faint but persistent unease. The interior materials, particularly on the standard and mid-tier trims, do not communicate $45,000. They communicate something closer to a well-equipped rental car. Panel gaps that your eyes catch without looking for them. A steering wheel that several owners have described as feeling out of place in a vehicle at this price point. A dashboard structure built around a single large screen that is visually striking, but generates mixed reactions the longer you live with it. J.D. Power's initial quality study has in multiple iterations placed this manufacturer near the bottom of the rankings for problems reported per 100 vehicles, a statistic that tends to get buried under the avalanche of positive press this vehicle generates. Consumer Reports reliability data, drawn from actual owner surveys rather than test drives, has flagged issues with body hardware, paint quality, and trim fitment that are not catastrophic, but are persistent. And they are persistent in a way that you notice every single time you get in the car. This is not a deal breaker for everyone. For the buyer who prioritizes performance, technology, and range over the tactile experience of pushing a door shut and hearing it seal like a vault. and plenty of people genuinely prioritize exactly that. It is easy to move past. But for the buyer who has been in a well-assembled vehicle and knows what that feels like, the quality delta here is not imaginary. The first illusion that you are getting a premium product in every dimension is the one this vehicle breaks earliest. Now let us follow the money, because this is where the argument for buying this vehicle gets genuinely compelling in ways that are not about emotion or brand loyalty. Buy number 4, fuel savings and operating costs. The federal tax credit situation for this vehicle has evolved. Consult a tax professional for your specific eligibility situation. But the trajectory of the IRA's EV incentives has generally made this vehicle accessible in ways it was not 2 or 3 years ago. And depending on your income bracket and purchase configuration, that can represent a meaningful real dollar offset on the sticker price. But beyond the purchase side incentives, the operating cost story is where the long-term math starts to favor electric vehicle ownership in a way that is hard to argue with. The U.S. Department of Energy's data consistently shows that the average American spends somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 per year on gasoline in a conventional crossover SUV. The equivalent electrical energy cost for the same miles driven, assuming predominantly home charging, runs between $400 and $800 annually in most markets, depending on your local utility rates. That is a savings of over $1,000 per year in many scenarios, which over a 5-year ownership period represents a $5,000 advantage that has nothing to do with the car's resale value, nothing to do with depreciation, and nothing to do with brand prestige. It is simply cheaper to move electrons than to combust hydrocarbons. Add to that the dramatically simplified maintenance profile. No oil changes, no transmission services, no timing belt replacements, fewer brake jobs thanks to regenerative braking, extending pad life considerably. And the total cost of ownership calculation starts to look very different from what the sticker price suggests. Edmunds' true cost to own analysis has confirmed this pattern repeatedly. This is the kind of money that rational people should factor heavily into a buying decision. But there is a version of this savings story that deserves scrutiny, one that reveals the savings are not as universal or as straightforward as the headline numbers suggest. The savings narrative has a shadow, and it lives in the parts of the cost equation that dealers and EV advocates prefer not to lead with. Run number 4, hidden costs, insurance, and public charging. Let us start with insurance. Vehicles with high repair costs, specialized components, and high replacement part prices command higher insurance premiums. And this vehicle, particularly after minor collision damage, has generated some of the more eye-opening insurance claims in the industry. According to data from the Highway Loss Data Institute, repair costs following accidents for this brand's vehicles run significantly higher than class averages, and those costs flow directly into your annual insurance premium. Owners in urban markets have reported insurance costs between $200 and $400 per month for comprehensive coverage, figures that meaningfully erode the fuel savings that made the financial case so attractive. Then there's the public charging cost reality. When you cannot charge at home, on a road trip, in an apartment during a power outage, you are paying for DC fast charging at rates that can range from 25 cents to 50 cents per kilowatt hour, depending on the network and the tier of your membership. At the higher end of those rates, the cost per mile approaches or exceeds what you would spend on a fuel-efficient gasoline vehicle. This does not negate the home charging savings for drivers who predominantly charge at home, but it fundamentally changes the math for road trippers, for urban apartment dwellers, and for anyone whose home charging situation is inconsistent. And there is one more cost that almost nobody factors in until they are sitting in a dealership years later, staring at a trade-in value that makes them feel slightly ill. We will get to that. It is the most important number in this entire conversation, and we are saving it for last. There is a number that this vehicle carries around like a competitive advantage over almost every other electric SUV in its segment, and that number is the scale and reliability of the charging network it connects you to. Buy number 3, supercharger network and road trip confidence. With over 22,000 fast charging stalls across the United States and a growing number of charging partners expanding access to non-native vehicles, this charging ecosystem has been the single most decisive factor in convincing hesitant buyers to make the leap. And the decision to open portions of this network to other EV brands, combined with major automakers adopting the same connector standard, has positioned this infrastructure as the closest thing the American EV market has to the ubiquity of a gasoline station. When you plan a road trip from Chicago to Denver, the routing software in this vehicle plots a course that accounts for charging stops, adjusts dynamically for weather and elevation, and gets you to your destination with a precision and confidence that no other charging network currently matches at the national scale. AAA surveys consistently show that range anxiety is the #1 barrier to EV adoption among prospective buyers, and this vehicle's ability to diffuse that anxiety through a combination of proven long-range capability and a purpose-built charging network is a genuinely powerful answer to the question that scares people away from electric vehicles. For the buyer who travels frequently between cities, who takes summer road trips, who needs to know that charging infrastructure is not going to be their problem, this network has historically been the most compelling differentiator in the segment. The key word, however, is historically, because what is happening to this network right now is a story that deserves its own careful examination. The supercharger network that inspired so much confidence over the past decade is experiencing growing pains that real-world owners are documenting in increasing detail. Run number 3, congestion, degradation, and real-world range. The decision to open the network to other vehicle brands, while strategically sound for infrastructure expansion, has created utilization patterns at popular charging corridors that owners describe as genuinely stressful during peak travel periods. Memorial Day weekend 2024 generated dozens of owner reports from across the interstate highway system, describing wait times of 30 to 45 minutes before a stall became available. That wait is in addition to the actual charging time. On a road trip where you were counting on a 20-minute energy stop becoming a 70-minute experience, the psychological impact on your travel plan is significant. Beyond congestion, there's the battery degradation reality that climate zone owners understand in a visceral way that warmer market owners sometimes minimize. Multiple independent studies, including long-term tracking data from Recurrent, indicate that battery capacity in this vehicle degrades at a rate that varies considerably by climate and charging behavior. Frequent DC fast charging, the kind of charging that road trips demand, accelerates cell degradation compared to slower level 2 home charging. After 3 to 4 years of mixed use, owners in colder climates with frequent fast charging patterns are reporting effective range figures that are measurably below what they experienced in year 1. The EPA range figure that convinced you to buy is a point-in-time measurement taken on a new battery in controlled conditions. Your battery, 3 winters and 200 fast charging sessions later, is a different animal. The confidence you placed in the charging network was not misplaced, but it was placed in a version of that network that is under more strain today than it has ever been. And that strain is accelerating. If the charging network was the infrastructure argument, the software is the experiential argument, the one that makes this vehicle feel less like a car and more like a device you live inside. Buy number 2, OTA updates and software edge. The over-the-air update capability means that your vehicle can literally wake up one morning with new features, improved efficiency algorithms, or refined driver assistance behavior without you setting foot in a service center. This has allowed the company to deploy improvements in real time that would take a conventional automaker years to implement through a model year refresh cycle. The driver assistance system, while the subject of ongoing regulatory scrutiny regarding its marketing name, has evolved substantially through software updates, and in its current form provides a genuinely useful combination of adaptive cruise control, automatic lane changes, and traffic-aware navigation that reduces driver fatigue on highway stretches in a way that is difficult to go back from once you have experienced it. The large central display, despite the polarizing design choice of removing most physical controls, integrates navigation, climate, entertainment, and vehicle settings into an interface that, once learned, operates with a responsiveness and visual clarity that most competitors have not yet matched. Owners who have lived with this vehicle for 2 or more years frequently cite the software experience as one of the things that makes it hardest to consider going back to a conventional vehicle. The product keeps getting better while you own it, which is a genuinely unusual thing to say about a depreciating asset. But getting better is not always the right description for what over-the-air updates actually deliver. Sometimes they deliver something else entirely. The The over-the-air update capability that feels like a gift can, depending on your perspective, function as a mechanism for the manufacturer to change your product without your permission. Run number 2. Unilateral software changes and ownership uncertainty. In 2023, software updates altered the behavior of the active suspension system on certain trim levels in ways that owners, some of whom had paid specifically for that feature, described as a significant downgrade. The charging speed ceiling for some battery configurations was adjusted through software in ways that affected real-world road trip times. Autopilot feature availability and behavior has shifted multiple times across update cycles, creating a confusing ownership experience where the capability set you purchased on a Tuesday afternoon may be subtly different from what you wake up to on a Wednesday morning. Consumer advocates and automotive journalists have noted that the absence of meaningful consent mechanisms in the update process means that you, as the owner, have limited recourse when a software change affects something you valued. The broader tech industry has normalized this kind of unilateral update culture, and for many buyers, it is an acceptable trade-off for the genuine improvements that also come through the same pipeline. But for buyers who treat a vehicle purchase as a finalized transaction, who expect the product they paid for to remain the product they own, this dynamic introduces a form of ownership uncertainty that has no equivalent in the conventional automotive world. You are not just buying a car. You are entering into an ongoing relationship with a manufacturer who retains meaningful control over your vehicle's feature set indefinitely. For some people, that is a feature. For others, it is a liability, and it connects directly to the most powerful reason to think very carefully before committing to this purchase. Let us bring everything together, because the case for buying this vehicle, when you stack the performance, the charging network, the operating cost savings, the software sophistication, and the range capability, is genuinely formidable. Buy number 1, the complete ecosystem and best-in-class EV ownership. This is the best-selling electric vehicle in the United States for reasons that are not accidental and not merely the result of marketing. It is the product that, more than any other, has demonstrated to the mass market that an electric vehicle can be fast, practical, long-range, and connected in ways that combustion vehicles simply cannot replicate. The ecosystem that surrounds it, mobile service, over-the-air updates, integrated navigation with real-time charging data, a brand community with deep technical knowledge, creates an ownership experience with a lower friction ceiling than most alternatives. For the suburban homeowner, the dual-income household, the tech-forward early adopter who values capability and connectivity above all else and charges at home every night, this vehicle is, in a defensible and data-supported sense, the right choice in today's EV market. It delivers on the central promise of electric vehicle ownership more consistently than most of its competitors at a price point that, factoring in incentives and operating costs, competes effectively even against vehicles with lower sticker prices. The number of people who have driven this vehicle for 3 years and would not go back to gasoline is not a fluke. It is a meaningful endorsement from a large, diverse, real-world sample. And yet all of that is true, every word of it, and there's still a reason to run that can negate every single thing you just heard. Here is the number that changes the conversation. Run number 1, depreciation and long-term financial risk. According to data from IC Cars, Car Gurus, and automotive residual value analysts, this vehicle has experienced depreciation rates over the past 18 to 24 months that are among the steepest in the entire automotive market, not just among EVs, but across all vehicle categories. Aggressive and repeated price cuts on new vehicles have, in a direct and unavoidable way, reset the fair market value of every used example of this vehicle on the market simultaneously. A buyer who purchased this car in late 2022 and attempts to sell or trade it in today may be looking at a loss of 20 to 25% of their original purchase price. In some configurations, more. Not because the vehicle has failed, not because it has worn out, but because the manufacturer's own pricing decisions have made their existing customers' assets worth dramatically less. Kelley Blue Book and Edmunds both track this trend, and the data is unambiguous. This brand's vehicles, as a category, have depreciated faster in recent years than comparable EVs from Hyundai, Kia, Ford, and Rivian. The implications for a leasing decision are different from the implications for a financing decision, But for the buyer who is purchasing this vehicle with the expectation of owning it for 3 to 5 years and recouping a reasonable portion of their investment at sale time, the depreciation reality is the single most important financial variable in the entire ownership equation. And it is the one that is most consistently underweighted at the point of purchase. A vehicle that saves you $1,200 a year in fuel costs can lose that entire advantage and more if its residual value drops 30% faster than the alternative you considered. The math does not lie, and the math here deserves a very serious look before you sign anything. So where does that leave you? This vehicle, and now you know which one we've been talking about. If any ambiguity remained, the Tesla Model Y is simultaneously one of the most compelling electric vehicles available to American buyers today, and one of the riskiest financial commitments in its segment when you factor in depreciation trajectory, insurance costs, and the long-term uncertainty created by a manufacturer that retains software control over your asset. It dominates on range, performance, charging infrastructure, and software capability in ways its competitors are working urgently to match. It disappoints on build quality, financial predictability, and ownership stability in ways that are harder to dismiss when you are sitting across from a dealer 3 years later.